at Howard University School of Divinity, and you can also find it at C-SPAN. So on either event, either link, you should be able to see, for those of you who are not present, you should be able to see and hear the lecture and respondents for this afternoon. Let us take a moment to give thanks in prayer. Let justice roll down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. We come before your presence, O God of life and creator of the universe. Keep us forever in your path, we pray. We are honored to stand before you as children who believe in equality, in justice, in dignity, and human life. We value all who are within the sound of our voice, and we ask that you would quicken the lives of each and every person who is here and within the sound of our voices. May we forever stand for truth in this place. Amen. We've already indicated that this is the Charles W. Harris Lecture of Public Policy, and we are very honored on this day to host it at the School of Divinity. Let me say a word for why we are hosting it here. Martin Luther King once described the United States of America as an extremely sick nation. He said that we were a country fueled by the politics of rage and greed. We're also a country fueled by the politics of race and division. And for those of us who have experienced the underside of what that means, many of us have found ourselves unduly aligned with the politics of respectability. We have all lost our way. And a nation that would be great has found that it is faltering. It is so terribly important that in the name of justice, and for those who would seek after peace, that an occasion like this will bring together all of us who believe not only in the human condition, but more in the faith of the universe, that all of us belong to each other. These panelists and our speaker for today are speaking to the utter humanity of us all, particularly those black lives that matter, but especially all of the created order that has been given to us. One who embodies these principles is none other than the presenter for our occasion and moderator. That is none other than the Reverend Kwame Osei Reed. Reverend Reed is an attorney, he is a clergy person, he is a political science major from college, he's a graduate of law school, and he is a graduate of Divinity School. So he's got all the cards. He's holding them down. He understands, as do all of us who are here this day, that justice knows no discipline, and it knows no boundary, because humanity is a gift to us all. Reverend Kwame Osei.
And I do want to thank Dean Pollard and the entire staff of the Divinity School for making this happen in terms of the organizing and the receiving of the commitment to have the Charles W. Harris Lecture. But more than that, along with that, I also want to express appreciation for the vision that Dean Pollard has shown over the years. It is one in which he sees the preparation of persons for ministry, for service in society, the church, as a place where we accept the prophetic role and then we go in and be among people who are struggling for fullness of life, for service to our God and service to one another. Along with that vision, he's made it clear that he is committed to using all disciplines, the various skills. So this is not the first time Dean Pollard has led in bringing together people from various disciplines, from law and religion. And I know that that is a commitment that he expresses in many ways, and it is part of the reason why he received the message that Dr. Charles W. Harris showed in saying that he wanted to be able to have a public policy lecture that addressed issues that are not only current, but ones that we need to come up with solutions for. And we need to be able to indicate that there are ways that we can be involved by helping the community not only to be informed, but to call the academy, the university, and the wider community, knowing that by organizing, thinking, and planning, we can make a difference. That we can, in fact, influence the issue of justice and recognize that we are facing a word that we don't use too often now, even in the church, but we're facing evil. When he particularly indicated his concern for the killing of unarmed African Americans, Dean Pollard responded to Dr. Harris and said, "We will join with you in that." When he expressed his concern for the loss of lives, and certainly we talked about those sons who were killed, he expressed his concern for their mothers. And you'll get the introduction later, but we're glad that the mother of one of those victims is here, along with those who represent them, who work with them. You'll get to hear from and all of those persons. But it was Dean Pollard's hearing Dr. Harris's call and his message that brings us here this day. So we're thankful for Dean Pollard, and we're thankful for the vision that Dr. Harris presented in all of his commitment to having public policy lectures, our being able to influence decisions that are made in our society, our government, our community, and in the academy. So we will get a chance to meet and hear Dr. Harris receive a description of the program for the lecture in writing, but also I hope that we can share that vision that says that we can all make a difference. Information, knowledge is power, and then it should lead to action. We have brought together speakers today who are there in the community who are involved. And I'm glad that speakers have indicated the importance of the church, our faith communities to us as they battle in the courtrooms and in the streets. So we're thankful for all of them. And I particularly want to now just emphasize our moderator. You see his biography in the program, and it says that he is consistently named as one of the top trial lawyers in Washington, D.C., acknowledges that he's nationally known. But Billy Martin is a super lawyer in this nation. He is an attorney. He has made a difference. He is making a difference. He will continue to make a difference. And we're thankful that he will take the program from here on. And what I said about him certainly is significant. What a great lawyer he is. But to a couple of us who were like Billy and Dean Alice Gresham Bullock, former dean of the Howard Law School, who's here, we were students of Dr. Charles Harris in Howard University undergraduate school. So we're very thankful that we have people here who've been a part of the vision of Dr. Harris for a long time. And I present to you our moderator, Attorney William Billy Martin.
Tony, thank you for those very kind words. And I would like to say that I am honored to be here at Howard University, my alma mater. When I came to Howard University in 1969, I had a dream. And I had a dream that I had an opportunity to get an education. It was an education traditionally and predominantly African-American, historically black college. And it was very eye-opening to me, and it provided me with a very, very deep education. I was one of your early students. I remember when you came to school, and we called him the youth professor. Dr. Harris, I am honored to introduce your daughter, Deacon Harris Jones, to say a few words both about why we're here today, about you, and the purpose of these lectures. Deacon, will you join us?
Thank you very much and good afternoon. It's great to be here. I, as Divinity and Deacon Harris Jones, I'm one of two. My sister, Angela Harris, the Lord Teeny, could not join us, but of course she's with us in spirit. You have seen the accolades my father has achieved throughout his career. 32 years at Howard, several tours as Dean of Poli-Sci, Political Science Department, and Bachelor of Science Arts. But I want to share a little something with you that is not in the program, a little history behind the Charles W. Harris Public Policy Lecture Program. When my father, when Daddy, made a decision to establish the endowment fund for the lecture series, he came both to me and my sister Angela and asked what we thought. He was concerned about how it might affect our inheritance and what we thought about it. And of course, because our father wanted to do it, it's something we naturally agreed to. But also, because we were both raised by educators, my mother's an educator as well, we know the importance of education. I have learned and have seen and continue to see that education can be and frequently is a catalyst for change. And so we knew that this vision, as Dr. Reed alluded to, was a great one. And so I'm very thankful that Daddy pursued this vision that has been established, that so many noted speakers have contributed to the series. And so I'm very honored, rather, to introduce to you my father, Dr. Charles W. Harris.
Divinity, distinguished platform guests, members of the audience, greetings to you all. I would like for the record to show that my first words on this program are words of thanks to Howard University for giving me 30-some-odd years of very distinguished service, joyful, and very strong opportunities to serve young people and to contribute to their growth in education. In my few words this afternoon, I'd like to say a little about how the endowed fund came to be. I'd like to mention that first, the birth of the idea. Second, the implementation of the idea. Third, the transition. We have already heard some words about how it got to the school beginning, but I have some additional words I'd like to add. And fourthly, the collaboration between the temporal and the ecclesiastical. In terms of the birth of idea, during my early years here at college, I attended a lecture that was held by the Department of English. This was the Birch Lecture. He was an outstanding literary speaker, and I continued to attend that lecture each year. They gave it as an annual lecture. And I would walk back, to my building saying, I wish political science had a lecture series like the Department of English. And every year I kept repeating that in my mind, I wish the Department of Political Science had a lecture series like English. So the years passed along, 30-some-odd years, and finally, time of retirement, I saved my pennies on. And I said, well, this is the time to take action. We're leaving. Are we going to have a lecture series in political science, or are we not going to have it? So, as my daughter mentioned, I talk with daughters, and the key issue, I guess, that was before me was there's the undergraduate school. Most of the African-American colleges need money. All of them need money. So it's an issue. Which way do I go? Do I go to my undergraduate school, or do I stay with the place where I've spent 30 years enjoying the years? And then I thought about a point that's a little deeper than even the Birch lecture. The lecture in English, in the English department, is the Birch lecture. I thought about the phrase that President Kennedy, I think he uttered this phrase when he was inaugurated. Think not what your country can do for you. Think about what you can do for your country. So I applied those words to the university. Think not what Howard can do for you, but what you can do for Howard. So my answer was very clear there, that I must establish an endowment fund for the young students that I've taught for years at the university, and a prize that would maybe inspire some young person to strive to reach higher levels. Next step in implementing the goal of setting up an endowment fund. After my children, I don't know if they were happy about it, but they didn't try to interfere with it. Nika had just finished law school at Berkeley, so she gave me some pointers on some of the things that I should include in it. I hired a law firm in Vienna, Virginia. We put the finishing touches, and the document was finally signed by the vice president at that time, who was Henry Jackson, and myself. The lawyer from Vienna prepared an MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding. And that particular document more or less officially established the endowed fund. The implementation of it, that is the beginning of the programs, the fund was established in 2002. And we've had a number of lectures. The first one featured the dean. I think the program is that the dean of the law school at Berkeley, Dr. Lorenzo Morris, was chair of the department at that time. He's now, I think, chair of the faculty senate. And after that, several lectures were sponsored by the next chair of the department, who is Dr. Darrell Harris. I guess now we come to the point, how did the lecture get over to the School of Divinity? Well, Dr. Dean Pollard, I think, has made some comments about that. But it was something that I suppose was prophetic in a way, because I mentioned it to the chair of political science, and he reacted in a moderate way, and we quickly set up a committee. Then I wrote him a long letter pointing out why I wanted to transfer it to the lecture to Divinity for this year. I don't think he was thrilled about it, but Dr. Washington, who's chair of the department, is really the hero behind this lecture coming from political science to Divinity for this 1 year. It will return to the Department of Political Science next year and for the years to come. Dr. Wamsi is here in the audience. I'd like for you to stand so he can be recognized. He's the hero of this year. As I say, when I wrote the long letter, I think he realized that I was really serious. And I guess he and the faculty members of political science shrugged their shoulders and said, well, if that's what you want to do, then go ahead and do it. So the program came, the lecture came here, but the prize, the annual prize, remained in the Department of Political Science. They selected the young lady who received the award. And that meant that we had both the Department of Political Science and the School of Divinity involved in the endowed fund this year. There was some talk about a co-sponsor program. I made it clear that no, either political science will handle this election or the school divinity will handle it. We will not have a co-sponsor election. And I'd like to bring up one item that, as I come to a close here, when the Second Continental Congress was held in Philadelphia back again in 1775, and of course ran over to 1776 and resulted in the Declaration of Independence. Well, there were something like 50 delegates there. The oldest delegate there was Benjamin Franklin. He was 81 years of age at that time. The youngest there was John C. Pinckney of South Carolina, who was only 29 years of age. Well, there was a piece of art on the wall, and the artwork there showed a sun, like a red rubber ball, over the horizon. And there was some question as to whether this sun was a rising sun or a setting sun. And after Richard Henry Lee had introduced the motion that these colonies should become free and independent, and the document passed, Thomas Jefferson had written the Declaration, had written, applied the words. Franklin then said, there is no question that this sun we see in this artwork is a rising sun, because we have been a part of a rising, creating a new nation, and this is a rising sun, which is symbolic of where this nation is going. I brought that up because if there was any question in my mind as to where I should have set up this fund, and we should set up some scholarships in other places in the country, and not rural churches I grew up in as well. If there was any question as to whether I made the right decision in deciding where the fund would be established, the fact that this lecture is taking place today, and the persons who have been a part of it, Dr. Reed has already been recognized, and I don't know if Reverend Shirley Gravely Kerr is in the audience or not. When you hear Reverend Kerr,
I'm
so
here.
please stand. I suppose all of the members of the student benefit if you pick the part. But I was interacting mainly with Dr. Reed and Reverend Shirley Gravely Kerr. They worked very hard bringing this about. So we're here today, and I'm convinced that the lecture is at the right place. We have the right people speaking. We have the right people planning this program, and we've come together over a problem that is a serious problem in this country. A serious problem, and as the Washington Post editorialized, I happened to read on it some time ago. Will it be a moment or a movement? And I'm just pleased that Howard University can be a part of trying to make this a movement. Thank you.
Dr. Harris, thank you. And I think we all want to show some appreciation for the fact that you were able to envision the need of this type of forum and put your money where your mouth was, as people would say. I know that you're very, very well thought of by many of the elected officials currently in office throughout the country, to the students in political science here at Howard, and you've done a fine job, sir, and we're all very proud to be students associated with you. Thank you for the down so much. I received a phone call from Kwame. Kwame and I have known each other for a very, very long time. And he asked me if I would be the moderator of the panel. And I asked him, well, please tell me what it's about, where it is, and what's going on. And he said, it's at the School of Divinity. And I'm like, okay, I'm in. And I asked him, tell me what the subject matter is and what we're doing. And he explained to me, as you see the kind of the caption, the title of what we're talking about today is transitioning from the moment to the movement, analyzing social issues, dealing with recent killings of unarmed African Americans by law enforcement. And that's a subject matter that if you put your head in the sand, you still hear it, and didn't want to see it, you still hear the gunshots. You can't get away from this. So when I read that, I thought the only issue I take with this is the fact that we're analyzing social issues revealed in recent. This is not recent. So one of the things I hope that our speaker, Mr. Crump, will get into, and our respondents will also address, is how is it that so many years with the efforts by the distinguished scholars and lawyers that we've had here in Howard and throughout the country, that we've fought so very hard for our civil rights laws, that we've fought so very hard for the Constitution and the laws to equally apply to all of us. How is it that we're still here today talking about recent killings? You go back and you look at the lynchings, and you look at the killings of African Americans throughout the history of this country. This is not a recent phenomenon. So I'm honored today to be the moderator of the panel that will present to you the views of some very distinguished, highly successful, and well-known lawyers. Our lecturer today is Attorney Benjamin Crump. And if you did not know the name, when you see his face, you'll know him from TV. But it's not the TV law, it's not the TV persona that you're going to hear today. It's not the TV persona that have been fighting on some of these issues throughout the country. There's a statement that he makes, and I'm not going to read the bio that's in the program. You can read that at your leisure. But there's a statement that he makes that he understands that practice of law is a privilege that carries responsibilities. And that's one of the issues that I hope that we all get into and talk about today. And that is, what is that responsibility? Who owns that responsibility and how should it be applied? He has a long history of fighting for individuals. He has a long history of fighting for civil rights. I'm not going to name the individual clients that he has, but you all know that last year, when the world was dealing with the shooting death of Trayvon Martin and the trial of Trayvon Martin and the acquittal of George Zimmerman, that there was an attorney standing beside the family, speaking to attorneys, only partner out of this, attorney standing with the family, speaking on behalf of the family, and making people appreciate the issues. Whether you agree with the issue or disagree with the issue. Attorney Crump has been very successful at bringing these issues to the forefront of the American society. You'll see him frequently on CNN, on ABC, on 2020, on NBC Today, on MSNBC, and he's always taking the position fighting for his clients. We also know that Mr. Crump was recently involved in the filing of a lawsuit and representation in Cleveland. And we have with us the mother of Tamir Rice, Miss Maria Rice, sorry about that, who will talk with us about some of those experiences. But Attorney Crump is going to talk about how it is that the practice of law is a privilege that carries a great responsibility. In addition, we will have a response by respondents. First, Wanda Moore, and Wanda is an Assistant Attorney General in New Jersey. Her office focuses on strengthening community police partnerships, community and police partnerships. She spearheads the implementation of community-based crime prevention strategies to reduce truancy. She's also served as Director of Prisoner Reentry Programs in the City of New York. And she's a past president and founding member of Thurman Martial Action Coalition, a national organization of drug court professionals. Already, with that introduction, what it is that we're trying to say of Wanda Moore is that there's a concept out there called community policing. We can get that concept out there. And community policing is a concept in its basic form where the police become a part of a community as opposed to rolling in when there's trouble. Police, the presence is always there. So I know that Ms. Moore will help us understand that concept what policies are being implemented now and what the strategies are that relate to that. It's interesting that she will talk about this because some of the allegations and criticisms that I'm sure Mr. Crump will make is that there is a shoot first mentality, and I know we're going to hear about some of the child was shot within, I was going to say 1 second, of an officer getting out of the car. So we're going to talk about community policing and training and police conduct. And I know that she will have both some rebuttal and some things to add as to what Mr. Crump will share with us. We also have Professor Trulier, who's at Howard University School today. And he has served as an associate professor of the Applied Theology Director at Howard since 2003. Prior to joining Howard, he was a visiting distinguished professor of religion and public policy at the Templeton Honors College at Eastern University. He also held faculty positions at Yale, the Center for Urban Theological Studies at Geneva College, and Jersey City State College. And the rest of his information, his bio, is contained in the brochure that you have in front of you. But I know that he will talk about some of these same reentry programs, some of the impact of prisoners, some of the stigma associated with an arrest and dismissal. And I hope that when we talk about some of these issues, we'll talk about the fact that sometimes police officers will lock somebody up that may be questionable, have the charges dismissed as soon as it gets to the prosecutor's office. But then you have the young person there with a criminal record. Ladies and gentlemen, those are our panelists. And with that, I'm going to ask Mr. Crump to come up and share his words. Our featured lecturer will talk about that transition from the moment to the movement and the role of lawyers and he played in this transition. Mr. Crump.
Thank you, Attorney Martin. To Dean Pollack and his administration, especially Sylvia and Gay and Shirley, who made me feel so welcome when I arrived at Howard University this morning. It was an absolute honor of being the Charles Harris lecturer. I was so moved when I read about what you did, Mr. Harris, because that's what it is about when we think about why God gave us the blessings. Not to keep it to ourselves, but to pass them on. So I salute you and I thank you. Before I begin my comments to you, there's a few people I want to recognize who are very dear to me. I have the honor of being president-elect of the National Bar Association. And Billy, I know they say lawyers are always trying to bail out when they have a lot going on, but they took time out with busy schedules to come and be here. So I want to acknowledge one of my personal heroes, and you all know her well here in D.C. When I was running for president, she gave me advice and told all her friends, this is my horse. I'm going with Crump as my candidate. And that is none other than the great Allie Lavender. Please, when the NBA was looked at as an all-boys club, it was Allie just saying, no, we have to remember that the black women were on the front line the whole way. And so, Allie, you embody everything that we have become as an organization. Also, there are others, Jennifer, Margot, Cynthia, all the lawyers. All the lawyers, please stand. I don't want to leave anybody out. I want all the gals to be here too. And they all say, great lawyers. A lot of times, you know, one or two get the spotlight, but really we're all in this together. We can never forget that. And I can never be what I am to be if you are not what you're supposed to be. So Cynthia, I thank y'all so much from the bottom of our heart for being here and giving me advice and counsel. You know, we got them in the front line when you fight in the fight. You need your brothers and sisters to encourage you and give you wisdom that it's hard to see when you're right there in the pinnacle of the battle. Also, you know, Billy is a great lawyer, but he's part of a dynamic duo. And you know, one of the things, I'm going to talk to you from the heart. I didn't prepare notes because his wife is one of the great journalists in America. And every time I would go on National Public Radio, Tell Me More with Michelle Martin, whatever I had prepared to say, Michelle was going to ask me what she wanted the people to know. And so, and y'all give a round of applause for Michelle. When we started the journey with Trayvon, she was there from the beginning, and I think it was people like her when some of the other major leaders didn't particularly think it was important to talk about the life of a young black male. It was Michelle Martin, so many others who continued to push our envelope and say, no, we want to talk about this little black boy who got killed in Central Florida before. I have a very special person here with this being said. And I'm going to talk about it in great detail because if you know the name of Trayvon Martin, you know the name of Michael Brown Ferguson. It's certainly on the list. Everybody wants their children names to be added to. And we remember Trayvon was 17, Michael Brown was 18. Tamir Rice was 12 years old. And I don't want you to take Ben Crump's word for it. I don't want you to take my most able co-counsel, Walter Madison's word for it. I want you to go look at the video for yourself. It's on YouTube. Just Google the name on the internet. And you see the video of her baby boy, her last child, was taken from her. And you will know that when the grand juries convene in Cleveland, Ohio, sometime in the next few months, the face of police brutality in America will be that of a 12-year-old child, a baby, Tamir Rice. We have his mother here with us, Miss Amaria Rice. Y'all please give her a round of applause. I'm so happy that we have so many people here, especially young people. I saw you come in from the back. I know you coming from class, but the young people, we're so happy to be here because this really is about you all. Yeah, and we have to remember that, you know, Billy, I've had the pleasure of speaking to 2,700 women last night, and not too far from here, in Richmond, Virginia, at the AKA Mid-Atlantic Regional Conference. And it was so interesting that all the media folks showed up and they said, well, Mr. Crump, why, we know you got this conference and you're talking to these women, but why aren't you talking with the young black men and trying to say, what they gotta do, the obligation, almost trying to shift the burden to us. And, you know, Michelle, it's always they trying to find a reason to try to justify killing our children and put the problem on us. And I remember telling all those sisters out there what we have to do. And it's so important that we remember our children are watching us, and the whole world are watching our responses. And so I told them from the very beginning that, we're here with these women speaking up for our children, standing up for our children, defending our children, ready to fight for our children, and if need be, ready to die for our children because they are our children, and you're not going to be allowed to tell our children that they can't be children. You know, they try to demonize Trayvon Martins of the world, demonize Michael Browns. And I don't know how they're going to try to demonize Tamir Rice, a 12-year-old kid, but as I stand here, Dr. Harris, I can guarantee you this being part of this criminal justice system that we're part of, they are going to try to blame Tamir Rice for what you see in that video. And so I stuck my comments. They said, after I got them off of that, talking about, well, what message are you giving to young black men and you with all these sisters? I said, and they said, well, why do you take on these cases? Why do you keep making these issues, you know, these controversial issues? And I remember thinking, I looked at the newspaper in Richmond, Virginia, and it was the same headline, Walter, all across America. And they said, because of what just happened to Walter Scott in North Charleston, South Carolina, the headline read, Black Men Still Targets. And so I told him, without even saying a word, this is why I take on the cases I take on. But I have a news flash for you. It's not just black men. It's black women, it's black boys, and it's black girls, it's brown boys, it's brown girls. And yeah, I said, it would be so easy for us to look the other way. We comfortable, we make money, you know, we got these fancy law degrees and stuff. But as I stand here at the School of Divinity at Howard University, Attorney Reed, would God be ashamed of us if we didn't use the blessings and the talents and the education and everything He's given us to not stand up for the least of these, to not stand up for our community is screaming out to us for leadership, screaming out to the lawyers, screaming out to the preachers, the doctors, all those people who sacrificed for us to get these degrees, the ones who caught the early buses, you know, and the one time they need us, we look the other way and say, oh, I'm not going to get involved in that, it's too controversial. I'm not going to get involved in that because I wonder what they'll say at my job. And so it is for these reasons that we have to speak up, because it's not just the black men. When I think about it, you know, Trayvon 17, Michael Brown 18, and I remember being very honest with them, brothers and sisters. I said the reason I take these cases is because 17-year-old Trayvon Martin mattered as he laid on that ground dead in Sanford, Florida, in that gated community with a bullet hole through his hoodie where his heart was located. Michael Brown, 18 years old, in Ferguson, Missouri, mattered as he lay on the ground dead in broad daylight in Ferguson, Missouri for over 4 hours. Tamir Rice's life mattered. 12 years old, playing with a toy gun who he had got from his friend. Attorney Benjamin said, now, we went through painstaking measures, Allie, to make sure America understood that even though everybody knows police officers are trained to de-escalate situations, certain times in certain communities, for whatever reason, Billy, they use different procedures, seems like, to escalate situations. And so when you watch that surveillance video in Cleveland, Ohio, the police officer comes up in such a reckless way. I mean, he's driving that police cruiser that if there were other children at that playground, my God, we probably would be dealing with more than just one fatality. And they pulled up driving recklessly, and within less than 2 seconds from the car stopping, 2 seconds, they made a decision. They didn't try to give any verbal commands, even though they would have us believe, if you take their word for it, that they yelled 3 times at him to drop the weapon and put his hands up. They would have you believe that. But don't take my word for it. Go Google Tamir Rice and watch the video yourself, and you decide whether they really gave that child a chance to surrender. I think Tamir, like Trayvon, went to his grave never knowing what he had did wrong. And so in less than 2 seconds, they got out, and you see Tamir falling over. And I know this is very emotional, Samari, and I apologize, but we gotta let people know the story, because if not, they just sweep it under the rug. And so, Tamir, this 12-year-old baby, is down there on the ground in the snow in Cleveland, Ohio, and they're at the community center. And Samaria will tell you how normal that day was when she gets an opportunity to speak to you. But his sister, his 14-year-old sister, Tarjay, she came running out of the community center with the other children, Laura, and she is crying, and it's so riveting to me. She's screaming, "They killed my baby brother. They killed my baby brother." And the other children have the cell phones out, and they are recording it, and one of the young men said, no, he's not dead, he's still moving. And I'm listening to this cell phone, and I'm saying, oh my God, how terrible this is for this little 14-year-old child. But it gets worse. When they finally get to the tragic scene of where her brother has been killed, and she's screaming, "They killed my baby brother," the police officers would like to say, well, this 12-year-old looked like an adult, so we didn't know. But at this point, when his 14-year-old sister runs up screaming, "They killed my baby brother," well, they now know that this is a child, and that this is obviously his sister, because she's screaming, "They killed my baby brother." And what humanity do they offer this little black girl? What kind of comfort, what kind of counsel do they try to extend to Tarjay? Well, the fortunate thing Attorney Madison and I have in this case now is the fact that the video surveillance keeps running. And so we get to see not only what they do to Tarjay, but also what they do to Samaria when she arrives on the scene, and her brother. And we get to get a vantage point into the mentality of these police officers on that tragic day. And what they do to Tarjay, this 14-year-old girl who sees her brother lying on the ground, just been shot, kicking in the snow. They manhandle her. They tackle her. They tackle her not once, but when she tries to get back up off the ground, they tackle her again. And she's just trying to get to her baby brother. And to add insult to injury, they then put handcuffs on her, and it's all on the video. Don't take my word for it. They drag her in the snow. In the same police cruiser that you see them just minutes ago get out of the car and shoot her baby brother, they put her in the back seat of that police cruiser, handcuffed, where she lays there watching her baby brother kicking in the snow, dying. And they then try to justify it in the answer to our complaint, right, Attorney Madison, by saying 12-year-old Tamir Rice is responsible because he should have been more careful. And so, when the reporters asked me last night, why do I do this? Why do I do this? I think of my own children. I think of Sabrina Fulton at the first Million Hoodie rally when she said, all nervous out there, excuse me, in New York City. She said, thank you all for standing up for my son, Trayvon Martin. But he's not just my son. But he's not just my son. He's your son. He's all our sons. Because if it can happen to my child, it can happen to your child. And we all got to stand up for our children. We all got to stand up for justice. And I'm here to tell you, I'm trying to go tell it on the mountains to everybody. Don't think that it can't happen to your child. Remember, Trayvon was in a gated community. All these affluent, bourgeois African Americans of today, they like to think, oh, that's just something that happened in the hood. Well, it's happening more and more in these suburbs because they don't think you all, your children, is supposed to be there. And when they see your children, black and brown faces, they don't distinguish anything from the people who they think are bad people because they live in the hood. They just see black, they just see brown, they just see color. And in a matter of seconds, sometimes two, they make a life or death decision. And it's not just the police, it's the quasi-police, like the George gentlemen, maybe the black folks, making these decisions that our children are being taken from us. And then we look at I'm talking from the heart, then we look at what happened in South Carolina. Time magazine called me, Bill, and they said, you know, Crump, you've been on these cases now all over America. We want you to write an op-ed piece about what this means, what this video means, Dr. Harris. And so I thought about it, and it's on time.com, and it's going to be in that magazine coming out next week, the article that I wrote. And I chose the title, Will America Finally Challenge the Standard Police Narrative? And y'all know what the narrative is. Oh, I felt threatened. I felt my life was in danger. The unarmed person of color reached for my weapon, so I had to kill him. And they keep justifying these things based on just this narrative. The sanction of killing of innocent people of color. All over America, in every city, it's happening. And it's the same narrative over and over, and they just accept it as the gospel. And it's just tragic because when you really think about it, no matter how ridiculous it is, they still accept that narrative. You have it where our children, our boys are being shot in the back multiple times, but yet the police say, I felt in fear of my life. And so they justify sweeping right up under the rug. You have people getting shot in the back of the head. They say, but I felt in fear of my life. They sweep it right up. People handcuffed. And they say, I was in fear of my life. Sweep it right up under the rug. And I'm here to declare to you all, they were on their way to doing that in South Carolina. Oh man, they had already, the standard police narrative was there. He said he reached for my taser. And I'm thinking, but you shot him in the back 5, how many times? And so he reached for your taser, but obviously he's running away from you. Why do you feel your life is in danger? I mean, it is happening all over America. Alicia Thomas in Los Angeles, LAPD, she handcuffed and shackled. And the police kill her, they say, we felt in fear of our life. And they trying to sweep it right up under the rug. So when will America challenge the narrative? We hope and pray. They say, do you think because this video is so defined that it would change? And I keep saying, well, it didn't change for Tamir Rice. It didn't change for Eric Gardner. It didn't change for Antonio and Bruno Montez and Pascal Washington, who is Mike, the Hispanic version of Mike Brown, brought there, like he puts his hands up and the police shooting him 7 times. And we see it all in video. It didn't change for Floyd Dent in Inkster, Michigan. This was a 57-year-old man who was driving his car, who had never committed any crime in his life, retired from Ford, and the police stopped him, beat the hell out of him, and then, if you believe Mr. Dent, planted cocaine in his car, and they took him to jail, and he said, no, take a drug test, take my hair, do whatever. I've never used drugs in my life. And he said, I didn't do anything. These police officers attacked me. And then when you look at the background of the police officers who attacked him, he had been charged before with planting evidence. He was found not guilty, but they had charged him in Detroit. Now he was with a small suburb police department. And so you ask yourself, why don't we ever listen to our community versus just accepting the narrative? They accepted the narrative on Floyd Dent. He went to jail. He was well on his way of being convicted of a felony. And then the video came out. And you saw what these guys did, and you saw the evidence being planted. And so why do we keep accepting the standard police narrative? He was threatening. I felt a fear of my life. It keeps happening over and over again. Oh, let me back up for one quick second. Tamir Rice case, the shooter, Walter, you should have pulled my coattail. The shooter, the person who shot Tamir Rice in less than 2 seconds, had been previously forced to resign from a neighboring police department because they said he was unfit to be a police officer and that he was untrainable. It didn't matter how much training he went to, they said he was untrainable. But yet, he kills Tamir Rice in less than 2 seconds, and the district attorney Bailey still don't say there's enough probable cause to go in and charge him. We got to go to this secret grand jury proceeding, and we know from Ferguson and Staten Island, if you didn't know now, as lawyers, we all know you send it to the grand jury when you want a case to die, when you don't want to bring charges. So we just got to be weird here. I'm going to make a few more points, and I know the panel is going to have some great responses. But I'm talking to you from the heart because it just matters. Our children's lives just matter. Our brothers and sisters' lives just matter. And when we talk about transitioning from the moment into the movement, I think about all those phone calls when they first come, when these people are dealing with the worst hour of their life in many instances. They've lost a husband, they've lost a wife, they've lost son or daughter. And those moments are just, I think about Tracy Martin and Trayvon. You just never can get that sound out of your head, that phone call when they first call. And, you know, they try to sometimes stereotype black men as if we don't love our children and we don't accept our response. Man, I'm here to tell you, Tracy Martin loved his son Trayvon. And when he was on that call, y'all remember Tracy is a manly man. He drives trucks. And he has the bald head and has the beard. The women like to look at him. So, and Tracy was on that phone. And I mean, when he said about the neighborhood watch volunteer with a 9mm gun killed my son when he was walking home from the 7-Eleven. I mean, it's almost like he was whispering. And so when you see this on TV, this real manly man, I mean, it's the sound of heartbrokenness. I mean, just hopelessness. I mean, he was shattered, and what he was telling me was they weren't going to do anything about it. And me being an officer of the court, I was almost debating Mr. Moore, saying, you don't need me, Mr. Moore, give it a couple of days. They're going to arrest him, because I kept thinking to myself, you know, your son is unarmed. He's walking with a bag of Skittles and a can of iced tea. And the neighborhood watch volunteer has a 9mm gun and shoots him in the heart. I'm like, nah, you got your dead child, unarmed body, the proverbial smoking gun in the self-confessed killer's hand. I'm like, of course they're going to arrest him. I really believe that. I'm an officer of the court. You know, I see in our community people in court get arrested every day with no evidence at all, with an innuendo. Somebody said you look like him. You know, they talk to people in the area, and they arrest us. But I mean, you have all the evidence, probably because it's such a low standard, to just at least arrest them and give us our due process, give us our day in court, our constitutional rights. This whole notion that it's equal and fair, and whatever happens to anybody in America, we treat them all the same. And so I'm believing that. And Mr. Roy says, nah, they said they're not going to arrest them because of this stand your ground thing. And at that point, we all have to make a decision, y'all. We have to make a decision when nobody's watching, when there's no cameras, there's no crowd, you know, there's no million hoodie rally, nobody saying I am Trayvon. President Obama had said if I had a son, he would look like Trayvon. LeBron James hadn't put on the hoodie with the Miami Heat and said we are all Trayvon. When not before any of that happened, before the Change.org petition, and 2.7 million people signed the petition saying a little black boy life mattered. Before any of that, it was just that father and I on the phone, and I had to make a decision whether I was going to answer the bell. And we all have to make that decision whether we're going to answer the bell when nobody's watching but God. And when you do that, God just takes over from there. I mean, and you don't know what God has planned until you answer the bell to try to do right. When you try to do right, he's going to help you along the way. I mean, I think about how Trayvon became this worldwide phenomenon. When Michael Brown felt the call, he ran on the ground. You answer the bell, and you just don't know what's going to happen. People in Japan talking about from Tokyo to Ferguson, justice. I mean, you just never know what's going to happen. And lastly, before I get to leave you, don't think you can't make a difference. You can make a difference. You can, and I'm talking about to all of y'all, young and old alike, all us established people. There's a Michael Brown in every community in America. There is a Tamir Rice, a Trayvon, Alicia Thomas, Marlboro and Tulsa, and the list can go on and on, in every community. And when y'all hear about these black boys getting shot in the back by police officers, these Hispanic boys being handcuffed and killed, we don't do anything. And if you just wrote a letter to the editor with your position and your stature, that'll make somebody look a little farther into the matter. If you just did anything. And the young people, thank God for the young people. And I'm here at the Capstone, Howard University, and I know C-SPAN is covering stuff, so I want to give due to a young man who said, I can make a difference. It was a Howard Law School student who called my office when Trayvon, we couldn't get nobody covered. I'm out here saying, I called all my friends in the media, Michelle, and they like, okay, a little black boy got killed. Why is that newsworthy then? It's almost like a cliche. Little black boys getting killed. And I'm like, but it was a neighborhood watch volunteer. I hadn't even said anything about race or anything. I just thought a neighborhood watch volunteer can kill an unarmed child and nobody thinks it's a big deal. It was this little boy at Howard University because the young people got on social media. And they started talking about, this kid called me up, I guess while he was studying, Dean. He said, Attorney Crump, I was thinking, after reading about, I read your article on Trayvon, and I want to start a petition online to see if that can help. Because I just feel we got to do something. And I just wanted to get your permission and see if it was okay, and ask his family's permission. And I said, no, any help, anything you can do will help. And that kid, that one kid who thought that I need to do something, started the largest petition in the history of Change.org. They still haven't got anywhere close to getting 2.7 million people to go, take the time and fill out the form to sign the petition like that there. But that was all because of one Howard University student said, I can make a difference. So Dean Pollard, to the School of Divinity, Mr. Harris, ladies and gentlemen, and America, that kid gave the best example of how we change a moment into a movement. You just step out and you try to do right. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you very much for those words and your thoughts. Ms. Rice, I know it's very painful as a father of 4 children, one of them a little black boy. I'm worried every time he's out. I know a lot of parents who have little black sons. We worry about our children, but we worry about our little black boys. I know it's very difficult. I know what you've gone through, having read some of the articles in Cleveland, written about you and what's going on with you and your family. Would you feel comfortable coming up and sharing from your perspective something about Tamir? Can you tell us something about your son, something about that day that you met? Will you help me welcome him?
I just want to first off just say that bright and very talented in a lot of things. You know, you always want your kids to succeed in things that they do along with your help. So, you know, of course, you know, I played a major part with his schooling, being at the school, making sure he was in after-school activities, so he wouldn't have to be on the streets. You know what I'm saying? Just gave him structure, you know, and I believe in that a lot. But, you know, you can't watch every second, you know, things that your children do, unfortunately. He had a promising career, loved all sports, and a great swimmer, helper. He was a helper at his school. By him being so tall and maybe almost the tallest one in the school, even in the sixth grade. You know, he was up there with the eighth graders, as tall as they was. You know, they will come. Sometimes they will come called to get things off of the shelves and stuff like that. Now, this is the school. This is Mrs. Urban, the principal at Marianne C. Seltzer, along with Ms. Goodwin, was his teacher, and other staff members. So they kind of worked with me with him, you know, and I was grateful for that. Like I said, great helper. He was just helping them with the Halloween little program over at the recreation center across the street from my house. So everybody loved him up there. The whole community knew him. I had just been over there almost a year. You know, I just try to do the best I can as a single mom. I'm a human being, and I'm a vulnerable human being at this point. People like me, where I come from, and obstacles that I had to go through, sometimes we make it, but a lot of times we don't. That's why I invest so much in my kids, because I knew that they was going to make it. My other three children, they're going to make it too, but, you know, I knew my son had a promising career. That's all I can tell you. He excelled in everything. He was just recently put on the drum line at his school. So he had a lot of talent and tricks, and just a wonderful kid. Beautiful smile, very mannerable. Everywhere I went, they always say my children mannerable and nice, and you know, I take pride in that. I invested a lot in that, and you know, I made a lot of sacrifices for myself too, just to make sure that they have things that they need. I was robbed of that. I was robbed of my son's future. Let me just say that. A little about that day is it's a normal Saturday. I had just fixed lunch for Taji and Tamir. And they ate their lunch and went outside. I gave them a couple of dollars to go to the store. And I didn't think nothing of it, just a normal day. They always go to the rec. There's free Wi-Fi up there. They play in the gym, the game room. There's a lot of staff up there. They can call me if my kids are up there misbehaving at any time. I'm on speed dial. But like I said, normal day for me. I got a knock at the door. It had to be about 3:30. Taji and Samir had just left. It wasn't even 30 minutes. They had just left the door. And got a knock at the door, and two children just told me, the police just shot your son twice in the stomach. I was in disbelief. I'm like, no, not my kids. No, they don't. No. My 6-year-old son was there at the time. He was sick. God had put the strength for him to run out there with no shoes on and no jacket, and it was chilly that day. Kind of chilly. Not so much snow. It was snowing around, but it was chilly. And he beat me over there. When I arrived on the scene, I was still in disbelief, but when I arrived on the scene, I seen my 12-year-old son laying on the ground, just wondering, like, what did he do? What happened? What's going on? police told me to, as I was charging towards them, trying to get to my son, they told me to calm down or they were gonna put me in the back of the police car. My 14-year-old daughter was in the back of the police car in handcuffs, and I asked them to let her out. They gave me an ultimatum to either stay with my 14-year-old or go with my 12-year-old in the ambulance that day. They made me sit in the front seat of the ambulance. My other son, when I arrived on the scene, they was putting my other son in the police car because he was trying to get to his little brother. So I have 2 children in the police car. Them giving me an ultimatum to either stay with the 14-year-old or go with the 12-year-old, and that's just how my day was that day. And it just been a nightmare ever since. It's been a nightmare. We're doing the best we can under the circumstances. Yeah, we're doing the best we can under the circumstances, but I just never thought I'd be in a situation like this, ever. You know, I'm a mom, you know, I'm vulnerable, and I just never thought. I'm still numb to the situation, and still numb, I still can't believe it. I'm still waiting for answers, looking for justice. But what I can say is that I also, well, some of the community has created a petition on change.org /P/Cuyahoga County, and it's to make sure we keep the pressure on the prosecutor for conviction. Also, we have a GoFundMe account in Tamir Wright's name for donations if we can. I'm planning a community healing festival, June 20th. Tamir's birthday is June 25th. He would have been 13. So I'm having a community healing. So I hope you guys can come June 20th. And thank you.
First, I'd like to I do a lot of public speaking. I moderate a lot of panels, and it's very natural and easy for me to get up to speak. I don't know how to do it. Thank you. Thank you. You're in the right place. God is good. I know that we will all say, no matter what happens, we cannot the loss of a child. The idea of seeing your son lay on the ground like that. And I know that our prayers are with you. God bless you and your family. Moving on with our rebuttals, I'd like to put in the middle of lawyers a theologian. So we'll get a chance to, do you mind going last, will you? You're all right? We're going to bring up Professor Julia to talk about these issues. Now, we call it a respondent, and he's going to respond in a way, but I think that you will not hear a lot of people actually disagreeing with these concepts, because these are concepts that I think that we're all looking for solutions for, and they're real everyday issues. Professor, will you take a moment and share some of your thoughts on these issues? They set this up first. They set it up first for our respondents to speak from the table, but I think it'd be easier if they stand in the rest of the audience.
Harold B. Julia, Morehouse College, EA, Drew University, PhD, George W. Hill, Director, Facility 1000264. That's fine. has said that life matters. He named names of people whose lives matter. In the Christian tradition, we believe that life matters because life is a gift, and that all human beings are created in the image of God. And so when you take a life, you snuff out the image of God. And so every life matters, which means that we need a vocabulary to talk about our young black males and the other constituencies that Attorney Crump mentioned, that does not demonize and does not dehumanize. We have to stop drinking the thug Kool-Aid. We have to stop drinking the animal Kool-Aid. We have to stop with the name-calling and the objectifying that we ourselves do with our own in the name of distancing ourselves from them. The second thing that came out for me out of this, aside from the theology of life matters, is his notation that these instances belong to all of us. One of the things that I've been doing over the last 30 years is working at the intersection between religion, the faith community, and the criminal justice system. I started working in 1977 with first offenders in the state county of New Jersey. I worked with Joe Clark at Eastside High School. I taught at Sing Sing, religion, and in all of that time, one of the things that's become very clear to me is that the only reason that this is not every black congregation's issue that we don't want it to be. We're ashamed. What we've done is we have taken a real-life situation that is germane to every single African-American congregation in America and turned it into an issue. And folks don't deal with issues. They deal with people. One of the things that we're trying to surface is how many of us as human beings are impacted by this system. Whether it is as victims, and by the way, the new language is not victims, it's survivors. Because if you're a survivor, that means that you've made it through something. And so we're talking now about survivors. Whether you're a survivor of a situation, or whether you are someone who has a son or a daughter who is actually in the system. Because one of the things we don't talk about much is that 80% of all young black males who are incarcerated are also crime survivors. They don't think of themselves that way. But the Vera Institute has done research, and you discovered that when you interview young men who've been incarcerated, they come home and say, have you ever been a victim of crime, ever been a survivor of crime? They say, no, never. Then you say, well, how many of you have been jumped by somebody with no cause? And they all put their hands up. How many of you ever had something taken from you by force? They all put their hands up. How many of you had your house burglarized? Put their hands up. They've been victimized. They have survived trauma. And unless we are engaged in helping them deal with the trauma, they're bound to repeat the trauma. The problem is we see them as someone out there. We don't see them as our children. We don't see them as our grandchildren. But I guarantee you, if you were to do an altar call like I will this Sunday at Shiloh Baptist Church here in Washington, and ask for every parent and every grandparent who has a child that's been impacted by this system, whether it's by a wrongful incarceration or wrongful arrest, or whether it's been by an incarceration or an arrest, I guarantee you that between 1/3 and 1/2 of the congregation will come forward. This is our issue. I used to try to distance myself up until I was incarcerated. I don't have one of those rags to riches things. You know, you grow up in the hood, you're a bad kid, you go to jail, and you meet Jesus. No, I've met Jesus before I ran. You know, unlike those of you who have not sinned since you became religious. And I drank the shame Kool-Aid. I didn't want anybody to know that I was in trouble. So I gave them a phony nickname. They told call me Doc. That meant I was the only inmate at times that had a monogram jumpsuit. That took a while. And so it was okay for 2 weeks until a young man came up to me and he said, Pastor, I said, I don't know you. He said, I used to play drums with the choir. I said, I don't know you. He told me his mother's name. She was on my staff. Before I got out of that facility, I met 7 young men whose mothers, sisters, wives, and cousins I had pastored. Every single one of those kids on our streets are connected to us. And the way that we learned this from a moment to a move, I could go on, I could tell you about my time at Cuyahoga County Juvie, working with the churches in Cleveland, but I'll say that for another time. We did some of this work with them. We had to get the church to understand that those are not somebody else's kids. The way you turn a moment into a movement is by turning it from an issue to a face. Attorney Martin called me a theologian. I'm not a theologian. My seminary students will tell you that I'm not a theologian. I'm a sociologist. They just let me teach it. And one of the things we know from sociological research is that congregations, faith community, is not motivated by issues. You can tell the faith community to do this because it's right until you're blue in the face, and they won't budge. But if you can link the issue to a face, if you can shift from narratives to names, if you can move from numbers to names, if you can move from statistics to stories, then you can move the faith community to get involved and invested, put a face on it. And now we've got faces. We've got Eric Garner, we've got Trayvon Martin, we've got Tamir Rice, we have Walter Scott, we have faces. The civil rights moment, a one-day boycott, in my fellow, became a long-standing movement because it had a face. Read Martin Luther King's speech launching the boycott in Montgomery, you will find it 1/3 is what they did in this box. Segregation had been wrong for a long time, but look what they did in this box. Discrimination had been wrong for a long time, but look what they did in this box. And you're right, Attorney Martin, this isn't new. We've had lynching, we've had police brutality, we've had bad cops doing bad things to good people. That's not new. But today's the day we say, look what they did to me.
We told you we have some interesting thoughts for you and some comments, and we have saved our best for last. And the reason I say we've saved our best for last is the concept of community policing is a concept that once was believed to have been one of the best techniques for controlling conduct in the community. Not crime, conduct. If somebody is selling dope down the street, everybody between the houses knows who's selling that stuff. If somebody is committing a crime in your neighborhood, everybody knows who's committing those crimes. The best way to figure out what's going on in the community is to ask the community. So with that, I'm going to bring an Assistant Attorney General from New Jersey who has put a lot of her efforts into understanding these crimes and not just accepting that they've occurred, but trying to see what happens tomorrow with either reentry, community aspects, or second chances. So with that, Assistant Attorney General Moore, will you share some thoughts with us? Thank you.
So I just want to start with thanking the Howard family for having us here and to all our distinguished guests. I particularly want to thank you, Dr. Harris, for allowing us to be a part of this process. I also wanted to thank Jennifer Nash, who's joining me now, who's going to help you. We have a quick PowerPoint that we're going to share with you because I think it tells the story better than I ever could. But the first thing I want to share with you is that we've been engaging in some wonderful things around community police partnerships. We've been figuring out what needs to be done by having conversations with the community, talking to Millville, talking to law enforcement, having the conversations with neighbors, talking to youth, understanding what the issues are. And then we take a look at the data and really put all those pieces together and think about some strategies that we think make sense. So there are a couple of strategies. One I'm going to get to, I'm not sure that we'll get to all, but I do want to share the first one. And particularly these are being released here today because they involve our faith partners. We do a lot of work with clergy all around the state. But we have one in particular called Fugitive Safe Surrender. It was a program started by the United States Marshal Service when an officer was shot and killed during a routine traffic stop. As a result, the United States Marshals came to the faith community and said, we need you to help us. And what we'd like for you to do is we'd like for you to bring in folks who are wanted on misdemeanor or low-level matters, and let's see if we can clear up those matters. So if you would, Jennifer, we're going to walk you through some of that. So as we did Fugitive Safe Surrender, and we'll show you, we did it around the state. We began to do first a look at what we do, what the numbers, how many warrants were we talking about, how many people were involved. We then began to look at communities that would help us. And we started by going to the faith community and working with them to saying, hey, listen, would you help us? And that brings me back to a comment that was just said moments ago. And one of the things that was said is that faith communities are not motivated by the issues. That's what you said. But what we found is that when we knocked on the door, when we said we need your help, we'd like for you to help us and really get this ready, they actually opened up the door and they began to work with us. So much so that we were able to help almost 18,000 people over a 4-day period come into the church, meet and greet us, and go through a process where their warrants were cleared up and resolved on the spot. We did it over a 4-day period. Thank you. There's 18, to date we have 17,800 individuals. We know that approximately 2/3 of those individuals were male. Most of them had 2 to 3 outstanding warrants and we were able to resolve them. So I'll stop there. So while Jennifer keeps moving, I'll tell you about some of our other programs. And I'm going to stick to some of those in our faith partnerships because I really think that they really bring home how you can work together. And then we'll get back to you when we can, when the stream comes back up for us. The other programs that we've been able to establish, one is called the chaplaincy program. And what we've been able to do is working with our local police departments, our established chaplaincy programs in which the chaplains themselves can work with community partners, particularly help young people who are encountering the criminal justice system, and figuring out ways to wrap themselves around that young person as well as their families to make sure that they get the support that they need, that they get the encouragement that they need. And so the chaplaincy program has really been pushed by one of our local departments, in the Vineland Police Department in particular. And the chaplaincy group, and what we'll share with you just a second ago, actually has the opportunity to travel around the state and working with departments to really look at how we can support families in the neighborhoods of our towns. So I think we're ready. Okay. You go to the next slide. I just want to share with you this slide here, Fugitive Safe Surrender. And so you'll see the arrow up there. You'll see that that's where we start, right above the church. This particular slide is showing what we did in Atlantic City at Grace Assembly of God. So thank you. We advertised. One of the things that we found when we did this work is that people didn't trust us as law enforcement, so they wouldn't necessarily come out and turn themselves in and surrender. And so for the first half of the day, people would stand across the street from the church before they came in, and they were waiting for people to come back out. And so that was one of the reasons why we managed to do this. But what was really important to me is that it's really the word of mouth. So we got it out there and let them see our New Jersey Transit telling the story for us. Of course, we also have worked in various communities, particularly our Spanish-speaking communities, and making sure that everybody really understood that they could be a part of it based on the requirements of the program. Yes.
Over the past few years, a special law enforcement program called Safe Surrender has seen 18,000, mostly non-violent fugitives, turn themselves in peacefully in a dozen cities. And that's tonight's Sunday comment. How Safe Surrender changed hundreds of lives in its first trial last week in Wilmington, Delaware.
Tyron Richardson was on the run from Delaware police. A dark cloud hanging over my head. Wanted for violating his probation for gun possession after skipping meetings with his probation officer.
Walking on eggshells for almost a year and a half is a pretty dangerous situation.
Potentially dangerous for him and his family.
I was afraid that probation and parole would come and kick my door in.
If you have a knife of any sort, please take it back to your vehicle right now.
The Richardsons were among hundreds of Delaware residents who came to what was called Fugitive Safe Surrender, a U.S. Marshals program run with state and local authorities to clear outstanding arrest warrants.
This opportunity is an incredible cost saver to the courts, to law enforcement, and quite a help to the communities.
It took place over 4 days with judges, attorneys, and even vocational counselors, all under one roof of a church.
We didn't come to be hustlers, we came to be helped, right?
The support of local clergy is a key part of the Surrender program.
Today, pastors have left the pulpits, they hit the pavements, and folks are coming because they trust the faith leaders.
But people also trust their outstanding arrest warrants will be treated favorably, but mostly they're looking for peace of mind. Dave Mailer had a warrant for theft.
Well, you wake up in the morning, you think about it throughout the day, looking over your shoulder, you worry about people recognizing your face.
He came with his wife to get a fresh start.
How can you enjoy life, and how can you enjoy your marriage or your family when you have this heaviness hanging over you?
Mailer was allowed to pay a small court fee and leave with probation.
We'll celebrate every day.
And after paying $589 in fines, Tyron Richardson will no longer be living under the radar.
The biggest thing is I'm not a fugitive anymore.
To the marshals and police, the program eliminates risk. To them,
Anytime a person surrenders, that's one less foot chase, one less car chase, and we see the results too often where somebody is injured or killed as a result of a car chase.
Cornell Wright had a handful of traffic violations.
It's still intimidating when you come in, you don't know what's going to happen.
By the end of the day, with a smaller than expected fine, his tickets were cleared.
Right there. New destiny, that's what I got.
Over the past 4 days, more than 1,000 people surrendered in Wilmington, clearing more than 4,000 cases, and only 6 of those people were arrested.
So a little bit about fugitive safe surrender. Less than 1/2 of 1% of the people that we encounter are taken into custody, and that's usually because they're running on a felony or what we call an indictable matter, which is outstanding. What it looks like in Camden, the program was run in Philadelphia a week or 2 before we began the program in Camden, New Jersey, and we thought since they had a few hundred people that ours would be a little smaller. We actually had that many people waiting online when the doors open at the church. And that is Bethany Baptist Church in North New Jersey. We had people in line 4 or 5 across as they went for blocks. Reverend Soares over at First Baptist in Somerset was able to host this for us. And again, that line actually wraps around the entire building. There were torrential rains on one day, people were still there. people are also very enterprising because they need to sell our flowers for us. That needs to be done. Next, please. Grace Assembly of God Church, one of the things that we need to do in Atlantic City is that all the people initially surrendered themselves here. One of the things that we had to do in our program was to make sure that our court personnel were actually in a different location. And so when you see us in the church, we also know that there's court personnel when we resolve these cases. There's law enforcement, we're doing the lookups, we're looking at them on both the state as well as the federal databases. And so we then move folks to the next slide, please. From this church, which you see, which is B, to A, which is the convention center that it went to host this in over a 4-day period. The last one we did the year before last was in Jersey City. That's the Jersey City Armory. Again, 4,700 people showed up in that 4-day window, allowing us to resolve tens of thousands on that. Then we were able to feature on the process a little bit about the word and how we were talking about our community engagement and what communities thought were important. So I wanted to share that with you because that was a part of what we were asked to do, is to talk about the role of law enforcement, how communities can be engaged. So there are a lot of different efforts that we're working on, but this one might bring with you, particularly since our faith partners really have been a tremendous asset to us and partners, and we simply brought the issue. And I think that's part of the dialogue and the conversation that we have to have when you sit down and you talk the issues and you're breaking bread together and you understand what the issues are. I think together as a community, we really can make a difference in the lives of all communities. Thank you.
Thank you. The way we tie in the video and the discussion you just had from the Attorney General's office is there are crimes that are committed. There are people who commit those crimes, and there are people who we want to be locked up. There are programs that address that. And I think the purpose of our lecture today and the discussions that we've had is that we want to find a way for our law enforcement to separate those two groups as opposed to putting the sheer physical presence and look of a person as a predominant factor, and they're reacting to what's going on. I'd like to take a very brief minute and tell you that when we fought, we in America, fought, and we as African Americans fought for civil rights in the 60s, and the Civil Rights Act, which was one of the key pieces of legislation. Along with the Civil Rights Act came a section of law in Title 42 of the United States Code, Section 1414. And that section allows investigations of police departments by the Department of Justice. And they have that investigation in Cleveland. They have that investigation going on in Philadelphia. They have one, I believe, in Newark. They've had them in New Orleans. I was the attorney of record representing the city of Cincinnati in 2003 when Cincinnati had those investigations. The reason I raised that, and I know that we all have seen Attorney General, former Attorney General Eric Holder, when he would address these issues. What was fought for in the 60s was a showing that the laws applied and protected all of us, equal protection. And when you listen to Charles Hamilton Houston and Thurgood Marshall, they talked about it was equal protection of the laws. Well, now the laws are written in a way that we understand they provide equal protection. And we are now saying that those laws are being used in a different way. And with that, I would say that there are findings of unnecessary use of force, excessive use of force, discriminatory practices by the Department of Justice. And I know we're going to have some questions and answers. So before we talk about how it is that we depart and what our takeaways are, I would open up the floor to see if, based on some of the thought-provoking discussions that we've had thus far, your own personal thoughts and educational experience and life experiences. Are there any questions that you would like to pose this very talented panel that we have. Please, you were asked that you step up to the microphone, and if you would line up behind the microphone, that would make it easier, and it would allow also the recording studios to pick that up.
In light of the recent killing in South Carolina, what is your position about forcing, coercing, convincing our Congress to require all police to wear body cameras? Do you think it would help if they would?
And so that I don't get you in any trouble with the Attorney General, we're not going to put you on the spot with that.
Thank you, though. I'll be great for it. Also, I want to announce Attorney Walter Madison. Walter, stand up. He's my co-counsel to civil rights case. Great Walter chime in here. Appreciate it, man. Attorney General, President Kane, stand word too. Marla, we pushed for that in Michael Brown's tragic killing in Ferguson, Missouri, the Mike Brown law, which I pray and hope will happen because I think it does make a difference and it'll be such a big legacy for Michael Brown. But let me quickly say this here. History happened this week in Ferguson, Missouri, and we're in the house of God, and so they say the moral arc is long, but it bends towards justice. Ferguson, Missouri, they had 3 times as many people in that community come out and vote than they ever had in history. And so I think that was a direct response of our community saying, we're going to do something about them killing our children. And now we have 3 African-American city commissioners out of Ferguson, Missouri. So that's history, and that is C-SPAN is right. To answer your question directly, I think cameras really are good because they let us know what happens. It makes it transparent, and that's what our community wants. That's what we want more than anything. And it helps the police officers. If they didn't do anything wrong, they're exonerated right then. But when you have this cloud of suspicion because nobody saw it, it's questionable how shooting our little brother or sister in the back can translate or correlate to your life being in danger. It just makes no sense to us. But I say this in light of Walter Scott that we saw on video. There's so many things that we would never see on video. It's about our culture. It's about the culture. The video, why do we need video cameras to make you do right? And I keep hearing everybody say, you would agree, the majority of police officers are good police officers. And I say, I want to believe that. And I honestly say that. Just like I want to believe the majority of young African-American men are good people. I want to believe that too. But I'm not just going to accept that all the police officers are good when all these good police officers see police misconduct and they don't come forward and say anything. You know, don't let me have to say good policing. Last thing, the chief said, we don't want you to throw a blanket over all police just for the actions of one police officer. Ditto. We don't want you to throw a blanket over all young black and brown boys for the action of one black and brown boy. So what you want is exactly what we want.
Thank you for a really wonderful discussion. My name is Dr. Marsha Coleman. I'm the coordinator for the Hands Up Coalition. And we're the organization that launched major demonstrations in front of the Department of Justice to demand that the Department of Justice release the civil rights reports. And obviously we were very unhappy with the results of those reports, but we did think it was important for the families to have that information so that they could process the fact that their government is not being responsible and holding police accountable for the deaths of our children. My son has been stopped by police over 30 times. And that is very common. If you ask most young black people, how many times have we been stopped? It is 20, 30, 40 times. And he was a Howard University student, and his trauma was such that he had to drop out of Howard for 1 year because of the anxiety and depression caused by being stopped by the police so many times. We are having a Million Moms March. We hope that you can join us on May 8th. We're also asking our brothers and our husbands to join the mothers as we take to the streets on March 9th to demand May 9th, to demand that police stop stopping our children, harassing our children, sodomizing our children on the sides of the streets, and they stop killing our children. And the last point I wanted to make was, in terms of your video, I want to know, when are we going to see police lined up in front of black churches and surrendering their badges? Because what I saw is the fact that we have hypervigilance in the black community. I mean, people are being arrested for selling Lucy's, or they're being arrested for walking in the middle of the street. So I want to know, when will the police be arrested? Thank you.
Thank you. Will you please identify yourself and then pose the question?
Sure. My name is Mike Evans. I serve as one of the social justice coordinators at Metropolitan Church in Bishop of Columbia. And what I heard today was very profound, and I want to thank Ms. Rice for putting a real face, real moments, truth, and pain, and sadly agony. Of course, has happened to her, to son, and to family many times a year. Always heard about 12-year-old boy, but we don't know. We didn't know the story. We didn't know he was a cover. We didn't know he was a slave. We didn't know he loved to make his family happy and proud. And when these things happen, we have to reflect on what that means to those families and to our own. A thing that struck me this morning before I left healthcare was I heard on the news, and I was amazed at how quickly the media, in collusion with the police, had jumped from outraged indignation to blame the victim once again for all that he had brought upon himself. Well, he ran, and he ran because he had X number of dollars in child support that he was afraid he was going to get pulled in on. Oh, but no, wait a minute. There weren't any warrants out. Yes, but it was more than we thought it was, and on and on and on. And we see these stories to justify the actions by the police and the occupied forces in our community to justify and rationalize what they've done. I'll be real quick. I'm very glad that we're here and we're talking about solutions. You know, we spend a lot of time with the recitation of the injustices that have been placed upon us, but I think we really need to be talking about solutions. Years ago, I ran a legal aid program that took down the terrorists in Chicago. We provided sentence,
I'm going to ask you only one question. We want you to pose a question to our panel.
We do a lot of and we try to provide information to communities about what the criminal justice system is about. What types of programs, public service programs, information programs, have you experienced and envisioned where the actors in the criminal justice system present to the community what they do, how they interact, how they work with each other, and how they're supposed to be working for us? Do we have any things in place that can help faith-based communities house those types of information services? Ms. Moore, can you help us with that?
Sure. You know, one of the things that I didn't get a chance to get to is some of the youth development that we do, right? Because I talked a little bit about the data and research and how we look at what is happening in communities. And so in this process, we have something called the municipal planning board process. What it is just youth development boards. And so these boards actually meet with our local police departments, we meet at the local school board, we might meet at the high school. But what we do, we actually bring both our justice system partners sharpen the data, and we began to put together both strategies looking at the policy level, looking also at the programs that are available so that we can help families get access to the services. Because what we have here, sometimes many services, but our families don't know about the services. There's not this connection, there's a link between some of the resources and the things that are happening and the families and the partners who need to make those things come together. So it's through that process that we've actually begun to do a lot of work as we engage with partners, as we do grants, and do this process of talking about in this youth development process. But we actually bring together on a regular basis, I mean once in a while in a quarter, at least once a month in between, we have meetings, small committees, that's do the same thing. How to connect partners to resources and how to link them, most importantly, how to make sure we have better outcomes so that our families are
I'd like to respond to that. Because it's not just, you can't just wait. I've worked with her for a number of years, and she does great work. She does great work on her hamstrung by government red tape. That's just the reality. You know, the wheels turn slow. She does no more. And so what I want to supplement what she said is that we have to create within the faith community itself a desire to get that information. And we have to construct programs within the faith community itself so that we're not waiting for the heroes and the champions to fight through the red tape to get stuff to us. So that part of what we're trying to do in the community project is go to congregations and teach them what questions to ask. What information do you need? How can you get involved in the system? How can you get involved in responding to these partnerships with information and with leverage, and not just be assigned a part by a government agency in a grand scheme, a program that they put together without you, and then come in and say, here's your role. So there's a lot of what we have to do internally to develop that kind of program, and not just simply wait for agencies to come to us and explain things to us. We have congregations all across this country who have resourceful people in them who know the answers. And if we can empower them to give us the internal kind of leverage that we need, then we can have real partnerships.
Professor, thank you, because that's one of the issues that I thought we would discuss today, and that is, what is the role of the Black church? Should the programs come from the government, or should the programs come from the community, and the community and government work together? And as I understand both what you've indicated and what Ms. Moore has indicated, that she tries, you, I'm saying the church will try, but sometimes red tape gets in the way. But if the church had its own initiatives, we're not looking for approval from the government. There's a role that the church can do without governmental assistance. Is that what I hear you saying?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. Look, we had a statewide program in Michigan on faith-based reentry. We had great stuff going on from the Upper Peninsula to Detroit to Grand Rapids. Then we got a new governor. And the new governor said, we're not going to put any more money in the community-based reentry program. What we're going to do is we're going to expand the Department of Corrections in Michigan and run our own programs. And so all the money came off the table. And all of a sudden, the reentry program started to die off. Why? Because we were depending on the government to fund the community-based programs. What we've got to do in the faith community is to recognize that we have capacity and that we have ideas and we have people. We just haven't been able to generate the motivation. That's why I'm running around the country saying we've got faces now. We've got Somali rights, we've got Tamir rights, we've got Walter Scott. I went to Ferguson in December and talked with people. We've got people like Tracy Blackman. We've got faces now. She's a pastor who's pastoring the young people. So preachers aren't leaving Ferguson. No, they're not leaving Ferguson. The young people are. Pastor Tracy Blackman, Pastor Tim are pastoring them. That's the same model that Kelly Miller Smith used in Nashville, Tennessee, during the Civil Rights Movement. He didn't lead the Civil Rights Movement in Nashville, Tennessee. He pastored the students from Fisk and ABTS who were on the front lines. You don't have to be out front. You can help the young people gain a sustained voice and not just stand up there making speeches
Come on.
So there has to be capacity building, energy channeling within the faith community itself. And then we're in a position to partner with government, but we're not dependent on the administration and administration change to make sure that this stuff keeps going.
Thank you. Professor D. Wood.
Alice Mercer Bullock, I'm a professor of school of law here. I must tell you, I am a tax professor and estate planning, as I said to the panelists when I spoke with them earlier. I'm not dealing with these issues as a lawyer on a daily basis. In other words, I'm not in the weeds on this issue. I'm not even in the tall grass as a lawyer dealing with this issue. I deal with this issue on my front lawn and in my backyard. 30-year-old son, and I said to the group that I am astounded that my husband and I raised my children. My son is 31 years old, tall, strapping black guy, well-built, good-looking, and we started quizzing him early on. My husband used to be U.S. Marshal for the district. We used to quiz him early on about his interactions with police. To this day, I'm astounded. He has never had an uninvited interaction with the police. It's amazing. That I tell you because it gives me the hope that we can have that in the community across this city and across the country. And my son grew up at a time where in Northwest D.C., the second district apparently has a lot of police department, but the officers in the neighborhood knew the kids. They knew us, not my husband made a difference with the kids because he was there. So I also think we as parents have a role to play in how we deal with the police department as well.
Dean, I'm going to ask you, they're telling me to cut our time down, so we have to pose a question to our panel because the cameras are going to shut off on us shortly.
My question, you've all answered a large part of it in this last dialogue, but what you showed us is a snapshot of the difference your community-based programs, your market service made in your community. My question is that spread to other communities? Related to that, are there coalitions with other communities in other states where you all talk to each other? So the folks here in D.C., Maryland, and Virginia should know the success you've had up in New Jersey so we can spread.
Thank you.
So it has spread for us in the communities. You know, people would find what we were doing. They would come and visit with us, and so we would actually have other jurisdictions come and actually help us, you know, in terms of our own thinking about it. They also didn't want information. They wanted to do the same thing. They wanted to get those programs together and actually figure out how to do it. But I think to your question, is there a network? Are we doing this across the board? Is there somewhere in the country? And I don't think so. I think that's why we would like to be a part of this conversation, because there is a lot that we continue. I think we will connect the dots. Right, there are other programs that are happening. There are big programs. There are communities who are doing it on their own, thinking through their own strategies. But how do we connect together, not just in New Jersey, not just here in the district, but across the country? And so we certainly will be able to continue the dialogue to figure out how we can make those bridges and connect them, not just locally, but very important.
Hi, my name is Audrey Michelle. I'm the Associate Minister of East Friendship Baptist Church and a student at Wesley Theological Seminary. My question is, in light of the videotapes that we've seen, you know, where they are shooting people and basically just leaving them on the ground to die, I would like to know what are the legal requirements for police regarding giving life-saving means when they've shot someone, you know, because in the Walter Scott case, they lied and said that they had provided, you know, CPR, and there's no evidence of that on the video. What are they legally required to do, or are they supposed to just leave them there to die so as not to mess with evidence?
And I was going to ask Mr. Crump to step out for a minute to handle that question. Mr. Crump, the question is posed, the question is, we pose a question.
In light of seeing all the videos where the police are shooting people and basically just leaving them there to die, what are the legal requirements for police regarding using life-saving means, you know, when they've shot somebody? Are they supposed to just leave them there so as not to disturb evidence, or are they supposed to, you know, attempt to save their life? Because in the Walton Scott case, they lied and said they used CPR and there's no evidence of that in the video.
And the same with Mayor White. Can I have my co-counsel Walter Madison address this really quickly? Sure. We're dealing with the same issue in Cleveland.
I'll be very direct with that response. Each state is governed by their own commanders for training and qualifications. One of the things that probably should be done in bringing some cohesiveness on that issue is that there be a mandate nationwide, because humanity is the real aim. And as part of the earlier question about the body camera, wonderful idea, but there should be no requirement for a person to have the simple humanity to say that that child or person wants to get home safely just as much as I do as the officer. So in the spirit of humanity, the standard should be the same. Some states require and make it mandatory that they do that. California is one, San Francisco, they have all of the first equipment in the vehicle. Ohio is just poor in that regard. Very, very poor. And we see the lack of humanity in that video. Attorney Crump reference to it.
The only other thing I would add to that is that I would think, and we have two civil lawyers who are involved in these types of civil rights cases as prosecutors for civil matters, but if the video shows a live person on the ground injured, with no aid administered by law enforcement, does that do anything for damages?
Absolutely. I think one of the things we're betting into Mayor Rice's case, as the New York Times wrote very vividly, this whole notion this kid is laying on the ground, dying in the snow, and the officers are kind of moping around like they're looking for change on the ground. And it's just hard to watch. You know you just shot, but you don't do anything to help.
So I would think as an issue that if a jury were to receive this case, one of the issues that lawyers would argue is that pain and suffering was enhanced by the fact that there was no aid injury. And one of the questions that we talked about earlier is that how is it that you cause society to recognize these issues if passing of laws doesn't do it? And the answer was,
and I don't know exactly where we saw. Yeah, and because, you know, Johnny Clark said something deep to me. He said that, you know, he lost a case when he had 50 witnesses. You know, and it's true because perception becomes reality. And he also said, you know, you go up there with your client, and the only thing black is your client, you in the judge's role, and the judge is just how he dismissed you. Nobody know about it. You're going to tell the media and the world what's going on, so when they go and dismiss your case, he got some repercussions from the community and so forth. So that's what we try to do. And thank God that I want to believe the media is finally starting to listen to all these black lives being taken with no consequence. I mean, I can go state by state and give you 10 in every state, and I know because we represent most of them.
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Aaron King. I'm a member of the Macedonia Baptist Church. We've heard this theme of organizational and cultural change within the police department. And I think we all know that organizational culture is not established at the bottom, it's established at the top. So in an effort to change the culture of an organization, we've seen historically one method that has been effective, especially for African Americans in the civil rights movement, was economic withdrawal. My question to you today is centered around the idea of what I'm going to call economic corrective action. This would be established via amendment that would comprise four things. When a county executive, legislator, or mayor and police chief take office, it is mandated that within 3 years, they reduce the number of deaths via law enforcement by 50%. If they don't reach that goal within 3 years, they're terminated. In addition to that, they do not receive any pension. That's the first thing. The second thing would be the mayor and the police and legislators who are at the top of the organization, once they have looked at the previous year and they see, okay, we got 100 deaths. We have 3 years to cut that by 50%. Right? If they don't reach that goal in the first year, their salaries get reduced by 20%. Once we get to 51 or 52%, each member of the law enforcement community, their salary gets reduced by 2%, and then after each death, it keeps going up. 2%, 4%, 6%, et cetera, et cetera. The next thing, that's 1, 2. The third thing would be that...
Let me ask you questions. We're trying to get the expertise up here, and I
Sure.
understand the theory that you give us. Can you pose a question?
Economic corrective action with mandates that are backed up.
Without the details, as a concept.
What I want to do, thank you, Brother King, but what I want to do is, I want to get past the numbers.
Concept is one we can talk about.
Concept, which is critical, he's talking about re-incentivizing the way in which we reward law enforcement in the criminal justice system. Okay? So that I serve on the executive session on community corrections at Harvard University, think tank, where we work on how do we redo probation parole. Correction, community corrections is equal for probation parole. It's got a new name, same thing. So, do we incentivize parole officers by how many people they trail, nail, and jail? Or do we incentivize parole officers based on how many people don't recidivate? Do we incentivize police departments based on the number of arrests they make? Or do we incentivize police departments based on public safety becoming better in the community? Okay? Through practice de-escalation practices that Attorney Crump was making. So the concept is brilliant because what it attacks at its core is the current incentivizing of over-arrests, over-incarceration, escalation of dangerous situations. All of those things right now, we reward. And then what we need to do is we need to reward the exact opposite.
The reason I thought it was a concept, that it would be an issue to raise is that many budgets of police departments are based upon those raw number of arrests. So that's why I thought in terms of discussing the concept, I thought you had something. I think people may disagree with you on the numbers, but the concept is an issue that I think the panel can deal with. Yes, ma'am.
I'm a engineering alum. I'm not a socialist. I'm not a theologian. I didn't have a question. I had a request, and I'm going to defer. I'm going to put a tactics, defer my question to Howard Stevens got up, and I'll hold my last question. My request was going to be that as we go down, I'd like to have a fervent, honest, sincere prayer around these concepts and issues for resolution, particularly around ending the mortal victims in the moment, in the movement, encompassing the victims and healing and those types of things. And I'm going to defer.
Although she says she's an engineer, that was a lawyer move.
Yeah.
That was a lawyer move. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon, everyone. Mr. Before any of the panel. I'm actually a Western Theological Seminary student, and I'm all for prayer. I believe prayer changes things, but I believe that, especially in this time and day and age, that action is necessary. I just feel that there is, I guess my question would be, what would be the danger of not doing anything, when, especially as young Black people, you see that when you do something, it produces either little to no results or negative results. So what would be the motivation for taking action?
More?
Well, I think two things. One is, there are obviously a lot of things that you want to accomplish
get this right without the full story? How do we get this right without understanding what are the needs, what are the issues, and how can we help? Right? So it's absolutely critical. But I also think that there is hope, and that we can see change. We experience that change a lot because we're working in the community, we're working with young people, I get to hear the stories of transformation, real transformation. And that's what drives us, that's what keeps us motivated. We see when people tell the story. And there was one in particular I didn't get a chance to share with you today, but I'll share it with you. It's a group called Youth that we work with, and we put a lot of effort and energy as well as funding behind. But the transformation of those young people who tell their own story is really where it is. They're really those changes are. So the way how much of I share that with you so that you see that we got to have your voice, otherwise we're never going to get this right.
Real quick.
Absolutely.
Same spirit as Sister Moore. We are seeing things change. Attorney Crump just mentioned the fact that in Ferguson, Missouri, where 8% of all blacks voted in the municipal election up until this year, 8. We got new city council people. That was young people that stepping up and doing that. The FCC last August, we had 3 victories in a 4-day period in August of 2013. When the FCC capped the interstate phone call rate for federal institutions. In New York, stop and frisk was judged to be illegal. And when Attorney General Holder announced the sentence rate reduction, we got the Smarter Sentencing Act that's right before Congress right now. We got the Second Chance Act that's coming up. We have a momentum going right now that you can either, the only people fighting this are the folks making money on it. And basically, that's the criminal justice system where it's incentivizing properly, like Brother King said, that especially prosecutors, okay? And then companies that are making money off of slave labor in the prisons and the private prison companies. They're the only people that are fighting this. I was at a summit 2 weeks ago, and the 2 keynote speakers on changing this stuff were Cory Booker and Newt Gingrich.
Oh my God.
Okay? There is bipartisan support for this stuff. The only people who are fighting it are the ones that are making money off the current system. And then the only reason that it's not moving faster is that more of us haven't owned this as an issue.
Thank you. We have one final question. Please introduce yourself and let us know what your question is.
Hello, my name is Ison Too Young, and I just first like to start off by saying hello and thank you so much for your time. On behalf of my classmates at Howard University, I'd just like to thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. My question is pertaining to the community policing. This is a conversation that I had in one of my classes. Do you think, yes or no, this is that community policing, like the relationship between Black communities and police departments can be mended? Do you think that? And that's what our professor asked us. And the question that I want to ask you all is, do you think that it's a good idea for us to move forward with implementing community policing, increasing community police structures in especially Black communities? Do you think that it's a good idea, despite the fact that we haven't received any kind of repayment for police brutality against our people? How can we really open up and trust just willingly without receiving some kind of repayment? And I know it may seem kind of unrealistic to have a handout. I really kind of like the idea that I heard about having police turn in their badges. Just from where I stand, a question that always boils inside of me is would I want to really engage in community policing, having police officers in my community? Because right now, where I'm from, the Bed-Stuy, we see police officers in our community all the time, but I don't believe it's a part of the community policing structure, and if it is, we haven't really been informed. And so I'm just wondering, is it really a good idea with the psychological issues passed down from generation to generation? Can we trust the police as Black people? You know, we haven't received something that says, hey, we surrender, like cops surrendering to us. No one's done that. But we're getting down on our knees and we're surrendering to allow them willingly into our neighborhoods. And sure, it's better to have a relationship than none at all, I guess. But What do you guys think?
Thank you.
So I just want to share with you a story, and I showed you a little bit about people with safe space, but we didn't have time to walk you through it. And so what happens in this scenario is we bring people who are all wanted, right, with hundreds of those of us who are in law enforcement and the courts and the judicial system and coming together. And what happens at that moment when people are there to really help is this very miraculous and transformative need to help one another. And we talked earlier about humanity. And in that scenario, what you saw is you saw officers running for hot chocolate because people wait outside in the court, right? You saw people who were waiting outside in the cold, throwing all their change on the ground because they wanted to get in. And you had people coming together in a way that you have to witness. You really have to witness this process that we talked about. When that young man told me he had a new destiny, that he meant that. And it really was because the church was there. And you have to understand that the church is also there, not just opening the door. What's happening is that you have guidance there, so there's a spiritual guidance, you have social services there, you're connecting people. So the church then becomes this hub of great things that can happen. And once you witness those kinds of things, you understand that it is possible, and that all things are possible. On the second part of your question, I just want to flip it just a little bit, because one of the things, I've done some work in the past in drug courts, and they say, the operative word in drug court is court. And then the operative word in community policing is really policing. But there's another piece to that I would challenge you to help us think about, and that is, what is the role of community in community policing? That is our question to decide. What is our role in that, and how do you do it? And I think that's what we're saying. What is the role of community in community policing? And that's something that we have to sit down and really work out together what that looks like, and how we then determine what happens in the neighborhood, and how we control it, and have a place where the same mutual respect that we see in our initiatives happens. One of the things we say all the time, we expect nothing less. And all of the times that we do this event, where we have thousands of people, we're moving a lot of volunteers, tremendous effort, a lot of work, and no point that we have one incident of any vandalism, of any trouble. That's because we all walk through those doors of that house of worship, knowing that we were there to come and help one another. And that is where it turns, and that's where we see a commandment. So help us figure out how we can make this happen so we too can see.
Let me ask you about Professor, I'm going to use it to apply into it. And then I'm going to say the last issue for you, and you get the closing remarks. So, Professor, is our last comment from the panel. Did you understand that? You remember the young lady's question?
Yeah.
Will you answer that, please?
I did, and I have a lot of respect for Ms. Moore's comment, because one of the issues that we're working on at Harvard in the corrections piece is precisely what the role of the community. And there's several of us, myself, Mike Mail, who was over probation parole in the state of Georgia, Sandra Smith from our faculty, Cal Berkeley. We're working specifically on defining the community's role. And because right now, community policing doesn't really have a role in the community. And it's one of those issues where they say, this is what we want you to do, as opposed to negotiating with us. Because there are not a lot of people like Ms. Moore who will say, we really want to hear from you. Okay? Not on the government side. So we've seen examples, however, of effective partnerships. And I just point to one. In the city of Boston, Massachusetts, between July of 1995 and November of 1997, there was a 29-month period without a single juvenile homicide. 29 months, no juvenile homicides. And it was a partnership between the community, the faith community, law enforcement, probation and parole. And part of, and this goes back to the comment earlier about changing the culture of law enforcement, what changed some of the culture of law enforcement in Boston was the Catholic Church. Because a lot of the white cops in Boston were Roman Catholic. And the Roman Catholic Cardinal of Boston bought into the strategy. And so it wasn't just about mobilizing the black church, it was mobilizing congregations, faith communities in which law enforcement officers served, to help them get a different understanding of what their role might be. You had policemen in Boston climbing the steps of the Hancock building, whatever the building is in Boston, I don't know Boston that well. Boston's Hancock, isn't it? Okay. I think it's Boston, Chicago, Hancock. They're climbing the steps of the Hancock building, getting job applications for young people to have summer jobs. Cops were doing that. But it came because the faith community of the law enforcement officers themselves were part of the strategy. So this isn't a black problem. Okay? This is a community-wide problem. So our communities need to be strengthened, their communities need to be transformed, and we know what works, it's just a matter of having the will to get it done.
Thank you. Over to Kwame, I would like to just end with a quote from Charles Hamilton Houston that I think addresses these issues and the role of the lawyer on civil rights issues. He says, and I quote, "A lawyer is either a social engineer or he's a parasite on society. A social engineer was a highly skilled, perceptive, sensitive lawyer who understood the Constitution of the United States and knew how to explore its use in solving of problems of local communities and in bettering conditions of the underprivileged citizens." That quote, I believe, was around 1929. We're still looking at those issues. As I turn this back over to you, Kwame, I think we've had a panel discussion today on issues that are relevant, even if you do not have children. If you watch the news, you see what's going on in the world. And I think, Mr. Rice, the fact that we were able to put a face and a mother's thoughts and a mother's pain for this audience has been helpful, and people understanding that this is not a theoretical or perceptive issue. It's a real issue and it affects people. So Kwame, before we turn it back over to Brother Crump, would you like to
I'm thankful for a lot of things today, and one certainly is the hope that has come from this time together. The hope that's come from you, and I do sense a real spirit of commitment that you will get involved, you are involved, and that as you choose the ways that you will continue to be or become involved. One is the comment form will be taken seriously. We need to fill it out, and it will be taken seriously both because you indicated your concerns, but also to give future direction to us. So we need that from you. Now, we also, in addition to looking to your inspiration, Dr. Anthony Mays, who is doing the streaming for us, and he has a company doing the streaming for he owns that, has given me a very inspiring message. Now, we're going to let him talk here, but we're going to do it in the reception. He has a few words to say that to me I think you will find inspiring as you develop your own ideas. But I do want to emphasize in reception that after we call on Attorney Benjamin Crump to come up one more time, we're going to go into reception in the crowd room, bedroom over out the hallway and out here. So we invite you to come and share with us in reception. And just only a few more words are going to be said at that time. But I do also want to emphasize that you see on the program that we're going to give the Charles W. Harris Public Policy Prize Recipient Award. We've done that, I'm thankful. And one reason we did it early was because Kayla Daniels was a good student, is determined to continue to be a good student, and she had to go back to class. She came in and got a chance to greet Dr. Harris, and she's going back. And she had to take an exam. So that has been done. Now, after Ben Crump speaks, we'll simply then go through the reception. But we asked Ben to come back up for this reason. It has to do with that idea of what we do next. While Ben has ideas of his own, he's been asked to lift up a program that he will be in charge of as president of the National Bar Association. He's president-elect now. And I'm glad it's called the Drum Major for Justice competition. And it's a way that we can continue this dialogue and talk to Dr. Harris, talk to the Political Science Department, talk to Dean Pollock, others here at the school. But partnering across disciplines is one thing we're going to do. And Ben has been asked to really lift up one of his programs in a special way. So whatever you want to say, Ben, in closing, but tell us about the Martin Luther King Drum Major for Justice competition.
Before we switch over, would you join me as a narrator and the moderator for the fine panel that we have?
Thank you, Billy. Thank you, Kwame. I wanted to do something before I tell you about the NBA. It gets real, really real. Look at this program. You heard Samaria talk about Tamir's face and that smile he had. Picture number 2 on your program. I don't want to put the pressure on you to go through it. I want you to see it to hopefully incentivize you to go Google about tomorrow. Picture number 2 on your program is the smile of Samaria's baby boy, 12-year-old Tamir West. If that don't motivate you to want to do something, look at that picture. I don't know what I thank you. I saw Kevin Judd, NBA Vice President, walk in the road, Howard University graduate. Since we talking about the National Bar Association, and Giovanni Caldwell, my mentee, who been helping us out a lot today. Our President, Pamela Means, on her behalf, so thank you for talking about the National Bar Association, the largest association of lawyers of color in the world. And we have a mission that's greater than just other lawyers. Our mission is twofold, like they said about Charles Hamilton in Houston. We have to be social engineers. We have to not just think about material things and all this stuff. We also have to think about our community. Because not for our community, where would we be? So we, African American lawyers, we have an obligation. And we want to continue that obligation beyond just today. We have this wonderful program called the Martin Luther King Drum Major for Justice competition, mock trial competition, where the young people, they write their essays and then they speak on them. And so our Region 12 here in D.C., Jennifer, we need to make sure everybody comes back to how we get young brothers and sisters to participate in this. We'll pick the topic. I know a couple years ago the topic was dealing with Stand Your Ground and Trayvon. Hopefully we'll do something on Tamir or something that young people can connect to motivate them, so we not only tie the legal community and the community together, but also tie the old and young together, because that's what it's really about. And so as I close, I want to thank Howard University Student Government Association President. Will you please stand? And you represent the future and all that we have to offer. And I just thank you so much for your attention and time to these important matters, because, yeah, it's about all our children. It really is. Thank you.
That does conclude our program, and thank you for coming out. Reception, absolutely. Reception is the tail end of the conclusion.